Hello and welcome back to another episode on the channel by me, the Wise James. Just going to be reacting to Prime Minister's question times today. If it'll... There we go. So, every Wednesday this happens. I do normally do them, but I haven't been doing them for a while, so I'm going to be doing them again.
That floating offshore wind does present significant opportunities for Wales and the UK, and in the leasing round that has just taken place, we have a first mover advantage in this new technology of the future. Earlier this month, the Energy Secretary granted development consent for the Mona offshore wind farm. That's going to bolster North Wales's offshore wind industry. But all of this is contributing to securing our energy independence and bringing down bills for people in Cornwall, in Wales, and the rest of the UK.
If you'd listened to me in 2017 when I suggested GB Energy in the first place and my green energy grant and putting water turbines in the drainage and sewer systems, seeing as they're all going to need upgrading anyway, we wouldn't have this problem. But no, you just didn't listen to me. But we'll just forget about the fact you have all cost yourself thousands and thousands of pounds over the last 8 years because you just didn't listen to me. We'll just forget about that. Oh, and here's the guy who's messing up GB Energy because he hasn't made it tax exempt and owned by the taxpayer. So they'll be forced to set the price of the energy with tax paid in mind, which will put it, 10, 20% higher at resale cost to the customers. And so it won't do as well in the market. And it's also not owned by the taxpayers. So we have no incentive to change provider. And we don't get rewarded for its success. So we also have no interest in switching to them. And do you know what I mean? They just don't understand what they're doing. You don't get to steal someone's idea and pass it off as your own and then think it's going to work. It's not. And I'm going to get the blame for it because it was my idea. But they didn't involve me. They've just done it on the concept. They haven't understood the details. So it's never going to work.
Mr. Speaker, I know that chair was...
Honestly, it's plagiarism. It's like someone in the exams copied my answer next to me and then passed it off as their own in the lecture because they got to do their presentation before me. If that makes sense. And they didn't reference me. They didn't say, I got it from this guy. No.
For me, can I just say to the Honourable Lady, when it comes to offshore wind in Wales, the waters that will be the manufacture of that offshore wind will be the same waters that flow by Northern Ireland, the same waters that flow by England, the same waters that flow by Scotland. Is it not time, Minister, to have a strategy, offshore wind strategy, for all of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? Because we do it together, then we'll do it better. Thank you.
I like that. Do you know what it is, right? A lot of the times in politics, it's very much division. It's us against them. But the thing is with Ireland and England, we need to work together. We do have a bit of a past, in the 80s and the 90s and stuff, and even earlier than that. But we need Ireland to be strong and secure. And Ireland needs England to be strong and secure. And if we work together, we will have better results than if we work against each other. We do need to work together. So I like what he said there.
Secretary of State.
I always believe that if we do things together, we do them better.
Nice to see I can agree with the government for a change. Fucking hell. It's a rarity.
Question number 8, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
We are committed to spending 5% of the UK's GDP on national security by 2035. The spending review invested to keep our people safe with a 10.9 billion real terms increase to the Ministry of Defence budget. This will help grow the Welsh economy and our thriving defence sector, which is home to over 160 companies employing more than 20,000 people right across Wales.
Olivia Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government's commitment to spend 5% of GDP on national security will be transformational for Wales and transformational for my constituency, where thousands are employed in the defence sector and where we've welcomed a £15 billion boost for the atomic weapons establishment. Does the Secretary of State and the Minister agree with me that both our national security and our local economies are better off with Labour?
Minister.
Well, absolutely, Mr. Speaker. Our ambition is...
Time will tell. You know, it is unfair to say that, like, Labour's better than the Tories currently. I think, you know, give them a few years and see how they've done. But so far, I don't think they've done as bad of a job as the Tories did in their first... I remember the Tories' first year. I remember it very well. They attacked the disabled, they attacked the poor, they attacked single mothers, they attacked the workers with workers' rights. Like, honestly, I know there's a lot of things people don't like, but it is better. I don't even like Labour, and I can't stand that Starmer's doing all the things I gave him to win the election wrong, and he hasn't even credited me or responded to my letter. But they are doing not as bad a job as the Tories. They're still doing shit, absolutely terrible. They could have stopped the boats. They could have sorted a lot of things, but they care too much about being liked, or that the international community will think less of us, and they wouldn't. The international community would respect us for securing our borders. And I think these guys are pussies, personally. He's went and done a deal with the French. I think he's a pussy, personally. Sue me.
to become a defence industrial superpower by 2025. We are making defence an engine for growth, boosting prosperity, jobs and security for working people across the UK. As part of this, we will establish the UK Defence Innovation Fund with £400 million to fund and grow UK-based companies. And we are launching the new regional defence growth deals across the UK, including a cluster in Wales.
We now come to questions to Prime Minister Jacob Collier.
On, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction.
That data breach led to the loss of life of quite a lot of Afghans who helped British soldiers and personnel during our time over there. So their names, addresses, contact information, sometimes even the stuff they did and their family members, that information was leaked to people who used that to harm them. And people died. Literally people died. This is quite serious stuff. It sounds like, oh, you know, someone's name got lost in the post. That's not what happened here. People's lives get lost in war with a data breach. It's not like, you know, Orange sent a letter to the wrong person. Sorry, McDonald's sent a letter to the wrong person. It's war. And when you get data breaches in war, it costs lives.
A major data breach, a super injunction.
A super injunction means that there's been a legal process gone through in the courts where no newspapers and no public person is allowed to publicly speak about what the super injunction is against. And I think there's a super injunction against things done to me by the British government personally. I think otherwise the newspapers would have reported it already, which is one of the reasons I'm building my channel, to report it myself to the world. I think there's a super injunction against anyone who's been held under the Mental Health Act and anything they say or do. And it's just not known. I think it's done in secret and it'll never be told because it's discrimination, which is against the law. So then the law has broke the law. That's what I think.
Secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer about how this was ever allowed to happen. The chair of the Defence Committee has indicated that he intends to hold further inquiries. I welcome that and hope that those who were in office at the time will welcome that scrutiny. Mr. Speaker, President Macron's state visit last week saw us secure historic agreements, coordinating our nuclear deterrence, a major investment in Sizewell C, and a landmark returns deal, a crucial next step in restoring order to our immigration system. Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, I will host Chancellor Merz for further talks on our security and the economy. This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Colin.
That line is said every day on the Prime Minister's Question Time. After his opening statement, that is said every single time. And I will have further such meetings today. And every single Prime Minister says it. It's like a tradition. And it's like, they just need to modernise things a bit. Like that. He doesn't need to say that. The whole House knows what he's doing. Like, they all know his job. They all know what he does. They know like where to ring and where he is because they're his colleagues. Like, and the leader of the House knows what he's doing as well. Like, you shouldn't also have the leader of our country telling people what he's doing each day. Like, you shouldn't have this. Fuck's sake, man, honestly. Some people just don't think, do they?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Families in Burton and Uttoxeter are watching their smart meters like hawks and dreading that moment when their energy bill lands on the doorstep. So I welcome Labour's Warm Homes discount that is going to mean £150 off energy bills for millions of people across this country, providing meaningful support.
Who created the idea of a warm home discount? Was a coalition government. Okay, so it would be nice to credit Labour for the warm home discount scheme, but it was actually created in 2011 by the coalition government between the Lib Dems and the Tories. So it's not thanks to Labour, it's thanks to the Tories and the Lib Dems. As much as I hate the Tories, credit where credit's due. So
Labour's Warm Homes discount.
That was not true. That's a lie. It's their current policy, and they're going to keep going with it, surely. But he's presenting it as if it's Labour's idea. It's not. They all do this shit every day. This party politics bullshit, which is why we need neutral MPs. We shouldn't have party members as MPs. It's bullshit.
It's going to mean £150 off energy bills for millions of people across this country, providing meaningful support in these difficult times. Can the Prime Minister set out how this is going to help support families in my constituency and around the country?
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank him for his question. I, of course, met his constituent Nicola in her kitchen, and she told me about how hard she's working to support her 3 children, but the past decade has let her down with false promises and public services array. Mr. Speaker, she told me about the difference the Warm Homes discount will make, £150 off energy bills, and she had a meter, if I recall, in her kitchen recording how much energy she was using.
I mean, this is all well and good, but he's using this as if it's ammo against the Tories. But the Tories fucking came up with this, and that's surely what their person's going to say. Do you know what I mean? Like,
using, and it would make all the difference to her, is what she told me. And I promise Nicola, my honourable friend, there's much more to come.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
this should be interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the head of the OBR warned the government that higher and higher levels of taxes are bad for growth. Does the Prime Minister agree?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what's bad for growth. 14 years of a Tory government.
Why did she not raise the point that they came up with the warm home She obviously doesn't know. She obviously doesn't know her party came up with that in a coalition government. Otherwise, she would have responded with that. These two give each other their responses, I think, and questions before this. So, you know, it's an orchestrated pantomime. It's not a genuine debate where they don't come, you know, they already know what each other's going to say, pretty much. Although they reword it and change things slightly, I guess. But why would she not say they're the ones who came up with it?
Bad for growth. Does the...
That's why. Because the Tories only care about rich people. They hate poor people. And Keir Starmer is going to do a wealth tax, by the looks of things. And millionaires are trying to cry and say, oh, well, loads of millionaires will leave the country. When actually, there's more UK millionaires are made every year than leave. So fuck them. They can leave. We're making more millionaires than would leave. It's not a problem. And if more leave, we just make more millionaires. It's not a problem. We will always have millionaires. And if they want to leave because they have to pay more tax, fuck them. Honestly, fuck them. To be honest, fuck them. And so the Tories' biggest donors are these kind of people. And that's who they protect. So it's more important to her to try and stop him from getting rich people to pay their fair share of tax than it is to say, hang on a sec, we came up with that policy you just talked about.
Prime Minister agreed.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what's bad for growth. 14 years of a Tory government. That's what stagnant growth for 14 years, leaving a £22 billion black hole.
It wasn't a £22 billion black hole. For fuck's sake. It was a £22 billion black hole in the yearly budget. What the Tories left was a £2 trillion national debt. That's the real black hole over 14 years. And that was before COVID. And once you add COVID on and the debt they inherited and the war in Russia, it's 3 trillion, right? So this whole £22 billion black hole actually refers to a yearly budget. It doesn't actually refer to some magical pot, right? It's their yearly briefcase, their yearly pot of gold, right? Not the actual big pot of gold. The actual big pot of gold is minus 2 trillion. It's not got stuff in it. We have nothing in the pot. That's the black hole. The real black hole is not 22 billion. It's 3 trillion national debt. These people, they do my nutting. This is why I've got mental health problems. These people.
What we've achieved, Mr. Speaker, in the first quarter of this year is the highest growth in the G7, something we promised before the election. Investment of £120 billion into this country, which is a record.
Which was all borrowed. It's all debt. We didn't just have 120 billion lying around spare. Do you know what I mean? They've gone and said, okay, we'll take this money from disabled people. We'll take this money from here, and we'll take this money from here, and then we'll borrow the rest, and then we'll make out it's all cushy, it's all fine, you know? This wasn't just money that was lying around, do you know what I mean? This is money we all have to pay now, because they borrowed it. And the problem he's talking about is debt, and his solution was more debt. Am I the only one in Britain with a brain here? I know there's some people out there who understand some things, but you give these people way too much credit. Just because he's standing there as Prime Minister in a suit, as leader of this country, doesn't mean he's talking the truth, and he's not lying, and he's not being deceitful, deceptive, and deflecting, right? He's representing a party and their interests, and his interests. He's not representing me and you and this country, although he thinks he is. He's not. You all give these people far too much credit. They are just human beings like me and you. No different.
In the first year of any government and 3 trade deals, all of which will boost growth.
Now, don't get me wrong. The growth is good. But if you're going to borrow loads of money and then invest it into your country, there's going to be growth. Like, that's just the natural implication of, like, if I borrowed £1 million off the bank and invested it into my house would grow in value, wouldn't it? It would make sense, right? It's obvious, okay? But they try and word it and do this stuff in such a way that it sounds like what they've done is really clever. But it's not as clever as they say it is, okay? So it's good. We do need growth. They had to borrow it because they had to find the money somewhere. They couldn't just keep kicking disabled people and elderly people, right? They had to get it somewhere. And they refused to bring me on board, who came up with all their policies that they used in the first place and who could resolve this in other ways. So their only option was borrow, right? So that's what they did. So this is money we have to pay back. So he's talking about resolving a £22 billion black hole with borrowing more money, essentially, okay?
Record in the first year of any government and 3 trade deals, all of which will boost growth.
So he's claimed he's got a record there for the best growth of any start of a government. You know, it's quite a bold claim, really. We live in a world where 120 million today was the equivalent of maybe 12 million, like 100 years ago, or maybe less, right? So to compare, you can't compare our financial world today to the financial world 50 years ago. The currency is different value. People earn different amounts. Houses are worth different much. Like, it's all different. I know you can compare, but do you know what I mean? You can't at the same time without going into the details, the variables. If you go into the variables that explain why they're different, you can compare. But if you don't and you present it as if that's just the way it is, it's a false representation.
Mr. Speaker, he's talking about what he achieved. We just heard that inflation is up again, the worst in the G7.
0.2%, which is because they borrowed a load of money. So, I don't know if you all know what hyperinflation is. In World War II, Germany thought they could just print more and more money to fund their war efforts, and everything would be fine. But when you print more of something, it makes the original value less. For example, if there's 1,000 first edition books, right, and they've got a set value, if you then have another 1,000 of the exact same first edition book printed, there's then 2,000 first edition books, not 1,000, so they're not as rare, so their value goes down. So its previous value is not the same, it goes down, which is how you get inflation. You get a currency gets devalued because they print more of it or borrow so much, and it makes the actual currency worth less. So you get inflation, devaluation of the currency, okay? And that inflation is essentially the difference in what it should be and what it currently is in value. But you all think I don't know what I'm talking about. I know you all think I'm just some insane schizo, and don't get me wrong, I have been insane, I'm not anymore, and I do have schizophrenia, you know, that's fine, but I do know what I'm talking about. You all should listen to me when it comes to politics. I'm not perfect, I will make mistakes, but I know what I'm talking about. More than most of these twats in this room.
We left him with 2% inflation. We have a borrowing up.
They had 14% inflation in 11 months before they left office. So she can't sit there and say we left with 2% inflation. They had the highest record inflation in my lifetime. So she's being deceptive and lying. Like, why do they just not tell the truth? They're like, yeah, well, we had this problem, but we fixed it. But they don't. They just say there was this problem and we fixed it. They don't admit they created the problem. There's no accountability and responsibility with the government anymore. It's beyond a joke now. It's now bordering on negligence in a public office, because negligence in a public office is someone who is in power, right, doing something that would knowingly harm someone. Neglecting their duties in such a way where they know it would harm someone. Now, you tell me anyone in that room isn't guilty of that. They're all guilty of it. They've all said, oh, it's okay, they can suffer, or this group can suffer, or this person can suffer, because it's fair. Do you know what I mean? They've all done things that are negligence in a public office, and none of them are held accountable. None of them. There has never been a politician in my lifetime charged with negligence in a public office. Maybe a minor councillor, but no MP. But many of them are guilty of it. Many of them. I have evidence to prove it, so I can back my claims up. It doesn't really matter what you all think, to be honest. I have evidence.
Unemployment up. Taxes are up under his government. The fact is the Prime Minister doesn't get it, so let me tell him. His budget last year had high taxes. That's why the economy is contracting. But, Mr. Speaker, the government has said that they won't put up taxes for people on modest incomes. But they also seem incapable of explaining who is in that category. So can the Prime Minister clear up the confusion and tell us what he thinks a modest income is?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think of the working people across this country who put in every day and don't get back what they deserve, and that's who we're working for. That's who we're fixing the country. The sort of people that work hard but haven't necessarily got the savings to buy themselves out of problems. And, Mr. Speaker, that's who we're working for, and that's why we put the national living wage up. That's an extra £1,400. The national minimum wage up, that's £2,500 a year. The triple lock, Mr Speaker, that went up pension up £470. And of course we're extending childcare, opening free breakfast clubs and free school meals. We know exactly who we're working for. She comes here every week and just talks the country down.
Do you know what it is? Every week it's like these two come here and it's like they're applying for a job and they're reading their CV and they're trying to sell us themselves and how they're doing a better job than the other person. That's essentially what this is. It's got nothing to do with anything else. It's just between these two. A little pantomime. A little play between two people who are supposed to be powerful individuals helping individuals of the country when they tend to just help themselves. Like, if any real Prime Minister cared about the financial problems in this country, why didn't any of them take a pay cut? Ask yourself that. If I was Prime Minister, that would probably be the first thing I did. I'd take a pay cut. You prove your points with your actions.
Speaker, I'm not talking the country down, I'm talking him down. I asked him.
She is right, like...
I asked him what a modest income was. He answered what a working person is. He doesn't know what a modest income is, and even on working people, they cannot define it. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury said that working people are people who don't get a payslip, but millions of self-employed people don't get a payslip.
A working person is a really hard thing to describe because a working class person is not the same as a working person. A working class person is someone who's, I would say currently, in this climate of finance, anyone earning under 50 grand a year is working class. If you earn over 50 grand a year, upwards to 100 grand a year, I would say, you're, depending on where you live, you're middle class. But if you live in London, you're still poor as fuck, right? So it depends on location as well. So if you earn £100,000 in where I live, you're the richest motherfucker walking around. You are a million. If you earn £100,000 in Gateshead, you are the equivalent of a millionaire, right? But if you earn £100,000 a year in London, you could barely afford to live. So it's difficult because it's not a fair playing field, is it? What's a working class person in the north is not the same as a working class person in London. So you can't easily define it. I can easily define it for my area. Anything up to 50 grand around here would be working class. Anything above that would be middle class. And then once you have passive income rather than you need to work for your income, you've got properties or businesses, that's when you become, rich and not a working person. If you don't need to work because you've got passive income, like businesses and things, and you technically just manage, that's not really a working person for me. Although you might work and do lots of hard work. It's terminology here. Semantics.
So are the self-employed next in line for a Labour tax rate?
The self-employed were the very people who suffered under their watch, repeatedly suffered under their watch, particularly if I remember during COVID, when they didn't get the support that they needed. But she talks...
That's true, actually. I can remember in COVID, a lot of self-employed people weren't entitled to whatever that scheme was, where people got paid not to work, which was incredible. Like, why didn't we pay people to help with the pandemic instead? Like, surely people had cross-transferable skills. A bricklayer could have been used to build new hospitals. A joiner could have been used to join those walls together. A plumber could have been used to... Do you know what I mean? We could have used all these people who were not employed because they were self-employed and employ them during COVID to help with COVID. But I don't think we did.
The country down. She cherry-picks. We have created...
That's why China can build a hospital in 24 hours and we can't even build one in 10 years.
Speaker, since we've been in government, we've created 380,000 jobs, the employment rate is up, and inactivity is down. The complete opposite of what we inherited.
I don't
know where these 3,000 jobs are coming from. Unemployment has gone up every month under his government. And perhaps he should speak to farmers and small business people and find out what those working people think about his government. But, Mr. Speaker, that's not all. We know the Chancellor is launching a review into pension contributions. It's as clear as day why this is. It is because the government is considering taxing them.
Yeah, and the only reason she cares is because rich Tory investors don't want their pensions getting checked or, like, audited. Like, some of these rich people don't want you knowing how much money they've got. Or how much, do you know what I mean? Like, but that's how tax works.
The Prime Minister agree with me that a tax on pension contributions is a tax on working people?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made absolutely clear manifesto commitments, which she asked me about last week and we're keeping to.
I don't understand the pension system fully. I could be completely wrong there. I don't claim to be an expert in pensions, so don't take my word on that, but that was my instant reaction.
I'm not going to write the budget months out from the budget. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the decisions that we...
Honestly, it's like a pantomime. He's behind you! Oh! It's like a fucking pantomime every week, this shit show.
To invest in our NHS, to invest in our public services, all the decisions that they opposed. And it's no wonder that after a first year of a Labour government, business confidence is a 9-year high. That's longer than she's been in government. Mr. Speaker, 384, I'm not withdrawing, I'm going to repeat. Business confidence is at a 9-year high.
Big business confidence is, yeah, but small business confidence is not. I think all the small businesses across the country are probably more worried than they've ever been. But it's not because of Labour, it's because the high street's dying because of the internet. Like, so all small business owners are quite concerned that they can be undercut and their competitors can take their business because the internet. It didn't used to be that way. So big business, like Tesco's and KFC and McDonald's, they're all fine because they tax evade, like Google and that,
Mr. Speaker, he says he's not going to write the budget, but his Chancellor is on the front of the Daily Mirror talking about what she's going to do on taxes. So why can't he do the same in the Chamber? Yes. But I asked him about...
Because what you say in the Chamber is held against you in a court of law, whereas what you say in a newspaper article or in an interview on the news is not taken as seriously. If you say something wrongful in that room intentionally and you know it was wrong, you get punished for it. You get told off, you get bollocked. So what they can say on the news is not the same as what they can say in this chamber, which is why they always try and word things in weird ways so they don't break certain rules by suggesting or implicating certain things.
Pension contributions. The truth is he doesn't want to talk about pension contributions. It's all right for the Prime Minister. He has his own special law to stop his personal pension from being taxed. But let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, this is really...
I don't think it's got anything to do with that. I don't think Starmer cares about his own pension contributions being checked. I imagine because he's a lawyer, they're all well above board. He most likely has a very, very well-paid accountant. I think to suggest that there might be some discrepancies in his accounting from his assurance that his won't be checked is a bit below the bar, really. As much as I would love to suggest Starmer did have financial corruption, there's nothing to suggest that, so...
About choices. My party knows that there is an alternative to tax rises. It's cutting spending.
No, the alternative to tax rises is national industry, because you Tories all sold on national industry, which was, the railway companies, the bus companies, the water companies, to private companies, and now the private companies exploit the country for that resource and make a profit. Whereas what we could have done was made the national industries tax exempt and undercut private sectors so that we managed to cover the running costs and make a small profit. Because private companies are run for excess profit, whereas national industries, I argue, should be run to cover their running costs and a small profit. So you wouldn't have to charge people as much. It would be easier to use it. the taxpayer should be the owner, and so if it's successful and has a successful year, we all get rewarded like shareholders. We don't need to cut. We don't need to raise taxes. We don't need to borrow all this. Do you know what? The problem in this country, right, is we allowed the private sector to start operating in the public sector, which was fine, because we needed the help sort of thing. But what that means is, over time, the public sector has been getting siphoned. All the money, all the resources, all the best people at their jobs, because they're getting paid more and better contracts, go to the private sector sort of thing, right? So what happens is, we have these public sectors that are about to crumble. They're about to fucking crumble. And we don't have any national industries making money. We don't have any British businesses making money. The only thing that I can recall the government making a large investment in, business-wise, in the last 10 years, was OneWeb, which was supposed to be a satellite internet company that was going to rival Elon Musk's Starnet, or Starlink. But we didn't even have the possibility of sending a satellite to space, because we didn't have a spaceport in the UK. We had no way to send a satellite to space. I think we do now. Could be wrong, but I think we can. Small satellite. So we spent 300 million or billion investing in this failing satellite internet company, which had no satellites, and we couldn't even send satellites to space. And obviously, it was Boris Johnson. Ended up collapsing, you know. Nothing got from it. So the only time they were willing to actually invest in industry was a private business to save it. And you can guarantee it was one of their friends. You can guarantee it was a Tory donor or some Tory member. You know, they wouldn't have done that for me if it was my failing internet satellite. You know what I mean? So the Tories are anti-national industry. They want the private sector to control everything, because then they can't get blamed. Because if the private sector controls everything, when something goes wrong, they blame the private sector. That's their whole MO. That's their whole their whole deal. That's why they want to privatise the NHS. That's why they want landlords to have more rights than the tenants. That's why they want councils to have less powers, so the councils do what they tell them to do rather than have their own powers. Like, all these sorts of things. They want private businesses to be successful, because then they get more tax from them than us. We're not really important to the Tories. The only reason people are important to the Tory party is for the vote. As soon as they're in power, it's all business, 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 business. They don't care about people. They don't give a fuck about people. That's why the first people they attacked when they came to power was homeless people. Like, if the first person you attack is the homeless people, I think that says everything.
Something that they are too scared or...
So yeah, this is why my solution in 2017 to the country's problems was national industry, essentially. GB Energy, a green energy grant. We start producing... we upgrade the sewers and drainage systems so that we put water turbines in. So every time it rains or snowing or it's windy, this country's making money. Every time you flush a chain in a toilet, you know, every time you flush a toilet, you go to a bath, every time you use the tap in the kitchen, it would be making the country money. Now, don't get me wrong, I know it would be expensive. I knew that. But we would become the energy superpower of the world. Like, we would. Our weather is so bad and has so much potential kinetic energy in it, we have the ability now to actually offer energy to the world cheaper than what the Americans and the Russians can. And we can produce it cheaper because our weather's that bad. I know it sounds stupid, I know people call me crazy, but I created a system that if it had been done correctly when I suggested it, we right now would be nearly at that point of becoming that superpower. But you all didn't listen. You all just think, oh, no, it's just a fantasy. No, it's not. Like, my green energy grant was simply to put a wind turbine and solar panel on every house in the UK. Just a small one. And then the government takes 50% of the energy produced by those systems until the cost of the equipment is recovered. And then the house would be left owning those two energy systems, the wind turbine and the solar panel, and would then get 100% of the energy for free rather than just 50%. So it would have cost the taxpayers nothing. We all would have ended up with free energy systems and cheaper energy bills, and our country would have been better off, and we would have had more energy security. And because it would have been so successful with all the water turbines and other things I was going to do, we then could have exported all of the excess energy to Europe and the world at a cheaper rate than oil and gas and things, and we would have dominated the market. But you just don't listen, man. You just don't fucking listen.
Perhaps 2 weeks
Fuck's
to do.
sake.
We offered to work with him to reform welfare and make meaningful
So we're going to get taxes instead. Higher taxes or cuts. That's what these... They want cuts is... Labour go for higher taxes. What I have suggested was national industry. We need business. We need to work our way out of this. We're not going to cut our way out of it, and we're not going to borrow our way out of it. It's just not going to happen. We're just now in the back pocket of the banks and big business. That's all we are now. Voters don't even matter. It's only our vote that matters. Google matters more than me. Like, the only thing that matters about me to the government is my vote. Apart from that, I don't matter.
Savings, meaningful savings. But his refusal sent a signal, and now the cost of borrowing is rising. The budget is in November, that is months away, and the markets may not wait. What will the Prime Minister be doing over the summer to get a grip on the cost of borrowing?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
Bit rich for some party who created 2 trillion of debt to talk about borrowing, isn't it? That's like me having to go at someone for smoking. Like... It's fucking hypocrite.
They left the most incredible mess in the economy. And now they think that they can lecture others. I think just last week their chairman said that they've done the necessary apologising for the 14 years of failure. They've done the necessary...
Until I hear the leader of the Tory party come out and apologise for the mess with the apprenticeships and all the things they did wrong in the 14 years. Like, they literally changed the housing benefit system and didn't include apprenticeships because, in the words of the cabinet, people's mums and dads would pay for them. So people who had apprenticeships lost their jobs because they couldn't pay their rent, so they had to look for new jobs. People lost their homes. There was people with diabetes who couldn't get their insulin because they didn't get any money because all this shit and died. People on the streets died of hypothermia and exposure. Do you think any Tory ever got charged for manslaughter or negligence? No. George Osborne just carried on sniffing cocaine in the Chancellor's office because he was a cocaine addict. It was well known. So we had a cocaine addict controlling all the money of the UK, right? And all the apprenticeships who were working really hard for very little money. You're talking like £200 a month for a full-time job. And then they were like, oh no, they're not entitled to housing benefit. So, me personally, I got made homeless by that. And I never ever will forgive the Tory party. So unless they apologise for that, they can go fuck themselves.
I didn't hear an apology for the lowest living standards in living history. I didn't hear an apology for the £22 billion black hole. I didn't hear an apology for the Liz Truss mini budget. So maybe she should like to stand up and make that apology now.
Mr. Speaker, he's not doing...
That's a no then.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, he's not planning on doing anything this summer to fix the economy. The shadow of the last budget is hanging over the entire country. Just yesterday, only the Conservatives supported the 2-child benefit cap because only the Conservatives believe in living within our means. Not Labour.
Imagine you only try to have 2 children, right? But you ended up with like twins as the second one. So say you have a child, right? And then you want to have another one. You know, there's a 2-child benefit system, so you think, okay, we can have one more. We're working people, but just in case we lose our job, we kind of need the safety net. So because there's a 2-child benefit system, we'll have to stop at 2. This will be our last child we have, okay? And then it turns out it's twins. So only one of them gets the benefit. That's the world the Tories created.
Not the Liberal Democrats, not reform. But it's the end of term, Mr. Speaker, so why don't we go through his end of term scorecard? The economy is contracting. Inflation, highest in the G7. Unemployment, up every month under this government. Spending, out of control. Borrowing costs, more expensive than Greece. And this is just the first year, Mr. Speaker. The Labour Party should be ashamed of what it is doing to the country.
Not as ashamed as what the Tory party did to the country.
Mr. Speaker, they can shake their heads as much as they like.
Usually her closing statements are the nastiest words she has, so I'm guessing this is her closing statement.
The fact is, this summer, they're going to have to go to their constituents and explain why they've been making such a mess over the last 12 months. And isn't the case, Mr. Speaker, that the worst, given that this is just their first year, the worst is yet to come?
We're happily going to go to our constituents. We're going to tell them we promised 2 million extra NHS appointments and we delivered 4 million extra appointments. Mr. Speaker.
Been waiting 22 months for an ADHD appointment still, mind, Keir Starmer. I mean, he's sitting there bragging about how well the NHS is doing. I've literally been waiting 2 years for an appointment to check a condition. Does that sound like it's been a good thing? No. Fuck off.
I've got to upgrade that. It's now 4.5 million extra appointments. So we're going to tell our constituents that.
Because they included all the stop smoking sessions in it. I bet you they changed the parameters for the statistics. I bet you, any money. That's what these bellends do. They'll change what counts in the stats so that they can manipulate it. So they could have just included all the people who are trying to stop smoking and go to all the pharmacies as like NHS appointments because it's funded and budgeted by the NHS. It's all free, you know. So if there's like a million people trying to go to a stop smoking session, they could just claim that as 1 million more appointments. Do you understand what I'm saying? These twats think you're stupid, and they're trying to treat you like you're stupid. Don't be stupid.
Then we're going to tell them about the free school meals we're rolling about, the free breakfast clubs, the free childcare and school...
The free school meals and stuff is good, though. Kids got to eat, man. Kids got to eat.
All uniform costs. We'll tell them about that. And then when we've done that, we'll move on to affordable houses and tell them about the £39 billion we're investing.
There is more houses being built in my area that I've noticed. There's been plots of land that have been laid derelict for years, and now all of a sudden there's been houses built there. So I don't know if that's down to Labour or Gateshead Council, but it's nice to see. It's at least nice to see. We haven't been building enough houses now for 14 years because the Tories were supposed to build like 1.5 million every year, and they didn't even get like any of that. Not even like 10% of it every year for 14 years. So currently we're currently sitting probably at 20 million less houses than there should be. Give or take. Give or take. Sounds ridiculous, I know. But that's the case.
When we finish that, we'll tell them about the rail and road upgrades across the country, the £120 billion investment, and of course the 3 trade deals. And Mr. Speaker, we're only just getting started.
It's only just begun.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right, that's it now. I would give the SNP and other people time, but this has already been a very long video, so I'm going to end it here. I think I've ranted enough. I kind of went off on one here. So thanks very much for watching. Have a good one. Hope you actually listened to some things I suggested, because if this country had actually listened to me, we wouldn't have any of these problems they're talking about. Like, these are all just... I'm crazy to you lot, but you lot are crazy to me, if that makes sense. Insane, huh? Crazy. See you later. Bye.